It's game over for the BBC. Today, evidence emerged that will bring the state broadcaster to its knees, should see its Director General and Head of News sacked, and lead to a massive public apology to us all. A leaked dossier revealed the BBC pumped Hamas propaganda into our homes and around the world, and the powers that be ignored it, covered it up, and allowed it to continue. On BBC Arabic, they platformed Samir El-Zainan 244 times between November 2023 and April 2025. Now, he posted on social media, apparently, that Jews should be burnt like Hitler did. They platformed Ahmad Al-Ajar, who described Jews as, quotes, devils and Israelis as less than human. He was on 522 times during the same period. The BBC failed to mention that many Palestinian prisoners were actually guilty of terror crimes, including bombings and knife attacks. It gave unjustifiable weight to Hamas's claims about the death toll in Gaza. They did a report about a female sex slave being released from Gaza, then ran a 600-word statement from Hamas calling her a liar. It incorrectly claimed the International Court of Justice had ruled that genocide was taking place. Newsnight highlighted claims that thousands of babies were on the brink of starvation in Gaza, that it already knew to be false. And that is the key point there, that they already knew to be false claims. BBC Arabic is partly funded by our Foreign Office, so it's your money. The Foreign Office should withdraw funding and demand a refund right now. The BBC, through the independent production company it used, also stands accused of paying Hamas for this documentary that they had to take off air because the boy here just happens to be the son of a Hamas government minister.
Good morning. You all right? Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your world was destroyed?
Last night, it was revealed that BBC Panorama appeared to doctor a speech by President Trump to make it seem like he instigated riots.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
But this is the worst bit. So this leaked report that is just coming to light now reveals how, having made such serious and misleading journalistic errors, BBC executives chose to hide them from the public rather than correct the record. In doing so, they appear to have deliberately chosen to mislead licence fee payers. And on that note, look what I received in the post today. There you go. So, if you don't want to pay for this extreme level of indoctrination, lies, deceit and propaganda, they threaten to send round the heavies for you. They will knock on your front door any time of the morning, afternoon or evening. If they find that you've been watching TV, they can interview you under caution, fine you £1,000 plus legal costs, criminalise you and then force you to pay for a licence fee. What was announced on Monday? Oh, they are expected to hike the price of the TV licence above 180 quid for the first time ever. Thank you, BBC. Taxpayers have to pay for the privilege of being indoctrinated by BBC bias. I mean, the leaked document is a huge scandal. Heads must roll, but it's just the latest in a long line of huge BBC scandals.
Very much so.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Martin Bashir's Princess Diana interview. Well, it turned out that Bashir used fake bank statements and deceitful behaviour to secure that Panorama interview. It was based on lies. They put a helicopter above Cliff Richard's house and did live coverage of a police raid. He was, of course, later acquitted of all allegations. They had to pay him £2 million. I mean, if they wanted to report on cases involving alleged sex criminals, well, frankly, they should just walk around their own office.
One note of caution, always be careful. It's important to check all the sources. They might not be giving you the full picture.
Hugh Edwards convicted of being in possession of the worst category of child porn. The country's most notorious paedophile, Jimmy Savile, stalked their corridors for decades.
it could be good. I hope it'll be good. Well, it will be. It'll be fantastic.
Well, there you go. That's just another paedophile at the BBC, isn't it? Rolf Harris. Any more? Oh, yeah. Stuart Hall in 2013, he pleaded guilty to 14 counts of indecent assault against 13 girls, some as young as 9 years old, with offences occurring between 1967 and 1985, during which time he was at the BBC. Some other issues they've had just in the last year. Gary Lineker, Bob Villan, he claimed that BBC staff praised him after his Glastonbury performance, which of course was just beamed out live to an audience of millions.
Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF! Death, death to the IDF!
There's people like Greg Wallace, aren't there? It's also just like the rampant left-wing bias, which they've had to apologise for.
He has said that this is now a matter of national security.
Nigel Farage with his customary inflammatory language there at a Reform UK press conference.
A little bit more left-wing bias.
Well, this is all very exciting, isn't it? Hello and welcome to our look ahead to what the papers will be bringing us tomorrow. Am I allowed to be this gleeful? Well, I am.
Yeah, that was the day Boris Johnson went, so there you go. And that's before we've spoken about them being accused of ageism and sexism for getting rid of older female presenters on shows like Countryfile and Strictly Come Dancing. The BBC is finished. It should just turn itself into a commercial channel. Stop demanding taxpayers for this cacophony of detritus and stick to doing what it does best. Programmes about trans people, shows about how the burqa is a good thing for women's rights and about how the Anglo-Saxons were actually all mixed race. Get thoughts from our panel this evening. We, of course, have Tory MP Esther McVeigh, Reform Councillor Jane McIver and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Esther, I'll start with you on this. Pretty shocking revelations here in this leaked report about the BBC essentially knowingly misleading people, not just about Trump, but in this case as well about Hamas.
Oh, it's devastating, this, for the BBC, to have altered it, to have doctored it, and then when people point it out, there's deny, defend, and just sort of try and derail anybody trying to look into it. Really, now, they've always hidden behind the fact that they were impartial, that they weren't biased, and that sort of has slipped now. We now know they are biased. We've always thought it. We've always thought they were pro-Labour, pro-Remain, pro-immigration, pro-trans rights, and now we found out that is the truth.
Yeah, and I suppose, Jamie, as well, the point is that the killer line for me in all of that was that they essentially knew that this was going on, and once they'd been told that it was happening, they chose to try to cover it up as opposed to inform the public and do anything about it.
Yeah, I think the BBC mask has been slipping. It's literally like round their ankles now. It's just so embarrassing, and you're right. I think the worst thing about all of this is the deliberate misleading of the British people. You know, these are people that are effectively taxed without representation with their TV licence fees. These are people that have coerced and indoctrinated viewers for many, many years, and now we know they've deliberately been deceitful. The person at the top has to go. This is beyond, PR recovery now. This is the worst. One of the worst things I think we've seen here is not what they've been doing, but the fact they knew they were doing it.
If you don't want to pay the TV licence bill, you get a knock on the door from some heavies. By the way, that will include pensioners, older people who might have just forgotten about it for whatever reason, and they can come round, they can be criminalised, they can be fined £1,000 plus legal costs, etc, etc, etc. Why on earth should anyone be made to pay for that guff?
Why should anyone be made to pay taxes? Because we live in a democracy and you have to abide by the laws of the land. And look, I'm a supporter of the BBC. I'm not alone. I was looking at some polling this afternoon. 64% of people, British people, very high level, think the BBC is a valuable public service. However, there are questions to answer. I think the Trump criticism is wide of the mark. I actually checked the speech on January the 6th, 2021, and he did urge the crowd, the mob, to fight. He did urge them to go to Capitol Hill. and the mob went, and 5 people were killed. So I think that's a different issue. However, the BBC Arabic service, I think there are real questions to be answered. Most particularly, their editorial output is significantly different to the BBC website. There's been...
Well, not that. Panorama's been done, Newsnight's been done.
Yeah, but there's been unchecked statements from Hamas. There's been people with a really strong record of anti-Semitism who've been put on air. And I think there are some real questions to answer.
So what has to happen then? People have to go over that?
Well, I think there needs to be an investigation. One, because it's the BBC. Two, because as you said in your introduction, it's funded in part by the Foreign Office. There needs to be an investigation. The outcome needs to be public and action needs to be taken.
Well, I used to be a journalist on the BBC and I used to do editing. There is no way you could have edited 56 minutes apart, sliced it together and put it off as the one comment, which is what happened on Trump's January the 6th speech. I don't think you could just pass over that, breeze over that as if that was what happened there. Now, it's absolutely unjustifiable to still have the licence fee. More and more people are switching off the BBC. The fact now that GB News has been for the last 4 months the #1 news channel, right? You can't force people to pay for things they don't want. You couldn't force people to pay for Sky News. No, and if it's so wonderful and everybody wants it and it's such good value for money, they would pay for it anyway if that were the point. So I think that laws has to change on that, and it cannot be backed up by criminal sanctions.
Sorry, but it's also the relentless scandals that go back absolute decades, and some of the most appalling, disgusting, sickening stuff that you could possibly imagine. How on earth can the BBC hold its head up higher around the world? Any single other business or institution that had that level of disgusting scandal time after time after time would be made to
But Patrick, it's large institutions throughout this country. You can talk about the Church of England. You can talk about the Catholic Church. Right. Yes, they have really serious questions to answer about the way, for want of a better phrase, they handled the talent.
We don't pay the wages for people in the Catholic Church.
It's not a criminal offence to not go to church on a Sunday. It's just not an accurate comparison. Ultimately, I mean, even the Institute of Economic Affairs said it's a ridiculous concept that you're forcing people in a free market economy to sign up to watch the same stuff and making them pay, making it a criminal offence if they don't. The point here is that it's scandal after scandal. They've lost the right to be treated with that level of respect.
They also mark their own homework, and then it will go to Ofcom. But first of all, they decide whether it should go forward or not. And then when it goes to Ofcom, you'll find most people who work there are former BBC employees. So this, again, has been another scandal. You want to try and complain about the BBC, you go round in a circle for months and months and months.
But do you know what? Go round the world and there is no public service broadcaster with the degree of support and integrity.
Isn't that terrifying? Because now, Bill, it turns out that they've been lying to everyone. So this is the point.
Well, no, I don't think that's...
This is the point.
I don't think that's conclusively proven by what's come out. There's a process going on within the BBC where on the editorial committee or its equivalent, a whistleblower can make complaints. As I understand it, that process is ongoing and there's an interaction taking place.
I think the Michael Prescott there, who is on the editorial standards committee and he's known as a serious journalist, said it was deep and pervasive, the bias in the BBC newsroom, and it was chronic failure to deal with it. I mean, that is absolutely damning.
But that's his view. We haven't heard the other side because there hasn't been an investigation.
He gave the evidence to show what had gone on. He showed the difference between what was on BBC, Arabic BBC, and what was on the BBC. He showed how they'd edited it in a very complicated way, the Trump
I've
speech.
acknowledged that the BBC Arabic channel has real questions to answer, but all we've heard from a leak is the critique. We haven't heard what the other side of the debate was within the BBC's structure, and that's why I think there needs to be a proper investigation and the results need to be published, because I think particularly with regard to the BBC Arabic channel.
He's saying he's got evidence that the BBC knew about that story about the amount of Gazan children that were going to starve to death was fake and still went to air with it.
Yeah, and all we've heard is his accusations and his side of the story.
Well,
we've not heard the other side.
He was the son of a Hamas official in a documentary.
Totally wrong.
Time and time again that we've heard this.
All right, guys. Well, a lively start. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see what people decide at home. A BBC spokesperson told GB News, whilst we don't comment on leaked documents, when the BBC receives feedback, it takes it seriously and considers it carefully. Michael Prescott is a former advisor to the board committee, where differing views and opinions of our coverage are routinely discussed and debated. Right.